It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ferenc Toth. In an era of chaos, confusion, and craziness, Ferenc is a voice for common sense. As a financial literacy educator, speaker, and entrepreneur, Ferenc cuts through the noise to help us understand how current events affect our money, economy, and our freedom. Now, here's Ferenc Toth.
Welcome to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ferenc. If you want to reach me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com. You can also email me at Ferenc, that's F-E-R-E-N-C, no E on the end, Ferenc at yourpersonalbank.com, or you can go to the Your Personal Bank app. Yes, you will reach me. I've been trying out a number of different formats to see what elicits the best responses, what the listeners like to hear. The combination of current events with an economic focus, some product information, that kind of mix makes the show fairly unique. And generally speaking, I try to share about half of the show current events, anything that affects our economy, our money, and about the other half financial tools, products. And that seems to be about the right mix that people really enjoy. I would love to hear feedback from you, what you would prefer. You can do so at Ferenc, F-E-R-E-N-C, no E on the end, Ferenc at yourpersonalbank.com. But it seems like what most listeners prefer, at least the ones that do reach out to me, is they enjoy the monologue in the beginning where I share current events, what's going on right now. Then I tend in the middle of the show, intermix some financial literacy, some product information, education, that type of thing. And then I'm going to finish up with some bigger picture ideas, whether it's about the economy or money in general or whatever seems appropriate at the time. So going forward, that's going to be our general focus, unless obviously some major news comes about or something big, we have to adjust accordingly. Today's initial current events, my monologue, if you will, I'm going to start with a post that I saw that I found extremely fascinating. And he posted quite a bit about how salaries are negotiated with many companies today. And I'm going to share some of the thoughts that he made to help you understand if you're still in the job market or perhaps even looking for one or you know someone, kind of what you're up against and how to protect yourself. Compensation analytics, their job is to calculate the lowest salary that you will accept. It's not about the salary you deserve or even what the role requires. And it's not even the market rate anymore like it used to be. What they try to analyze is the minimum number that keeps you from walking away. Oftentimes, as he points out, they know this number before you walk in and sometimes even before you apply. Now, how do they do this? They buy data. Payroll processors share salary history with Equifax through a product called the Work Number. It's kind of like a credit report. More than 800 million employment and income records are updated every pay cycle. Equifax sells this information through a verification of income. And the word verification means they know what you made in your last 3 jobs, whether you got a raise and when you didn't. They also purchase other data, like credit card utilization, payday loan activity, past due balances, delinquent debt, address changes. There are over 500 vendors currently that aggregate this data now. All this data creates a dashboard that they call a candidate tolerance threshold. And that's where they arrive at the number. It's the lowest salary they believe you will accept. And then they set the offer 3 to 6% above it. It's enough to feel like a negotiation, but not enough to change your life. And the industry term is compensation optimization. There was a study by a law professor named Veena Dubai recently that found when multiple employers in the same market use the same vendors, it functions as a de facto price fixing of labor. It's the same mechanism, same logic, same outcome, same salaries. And that's what creates the market. They look at your debt to income ratio, how quickly you accepted previous offers, whether you've used payday lenders in the last 2 years. Performance doesn't really set your salary anymore. It's your desperation that does. All the data right now is flowing in one direction against you if you are negotiating for a job or a salary or a raise. You think you're negotiating, but the algorithm has already accounted for your counter, and it budgets for one round of negotiation. There is an option to take away the power of the employer to know all this data. You can go to Equifax's website and freeze your work number file. Most people do not know this exists. It's like freezing your credit so someone cannot fraudulently use your credit. Companies don't share this information because it gives them an advantage in the salary negotiation process. And this is by design. This is the world we live in today with data, aggregation of massive amounts of information. The system requires your ignorance for this to continue to function. If everyone froze their data, the compensation optimization would have no information to optimize. And for those that are looking at graduate degrees, a recent study stated that most are not worth the money, and it's a very risky proposition. As they state, depending on your field of choice, it may not stretch your career prospects or future earnings, just your wallet. This study was released by the Post-Secondary Education and Economics Research Center at American University. They pointed out many degrees in social work, psychology, curriculum, instruction have the potential to yield a 0 to negative return on investment. Consider the full cost that goes into earning those types of degrees. And just so you know the accuracy of this study, the authors used data on over 800,000 students over 3 decades to calculate how much a graduate degree would boost a professional's lifetime earnings, especially for those that would need to take on student loans. They also pointed out that those pursuing graduate degrees in medicine, law, and pharmacy tend to have the highest return on investment. Those salaries nearly tripled for those with medical doctorate degrees, and about 2/3 for those that earned a doctorate in pharmacy. The ultimate message they were trying to provide was, students need better information when deciding whether they should pursue a degree or a graduate degree for that matter. The point of all this is that we hear how AI is going to soon replace millions of jobs. To date, it really has not happened yet. In fact, what has replaced most jobs since 2010 has been foreign-born labor. If you look at a chart, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, foreign-born labor has increased nearly every single year since 2010 and now is currently sitting at all-time highs. While U.S. or native-born peaked in 2020 and has essentially been flatlining ever since. HB1 visas have been getting most of the media attention recently. Yet did you know that there are currently over 80 work visa or student visa programs? And now there's another new proposed non-immigrant visa program called H2C for non-educated, non-skilled workers. Recently, there's been a lot of attention with H-1B visas and the fraud that certainly exists. What many companies are now doing is circumventing H-1B and going to one of these many other 80-plus work or student visa programs that are available. That's why big business has not really pushed back that hard against H-1B visas. The overall effect of all of this, and I'll touch on this, I believe, further at the end of this show, and how it affects our economy in the bigger picture, is with foreign-born employment increasing 42 times faster than native-born workers since 2019, it has the overall effect of depressing wages, cheaper labor for companies. Inflation numbers have increased significantly, particularly over the last 5 years, yet job income has barely increased at all, and when you adjust for inflation, real wages have barely moved at all. This is why we have record debt, record credit card debt, consumer debt of all types. The U.S. consumer is struggling. Costs of everything continue to rise, while their income barely budges. Long term, this leads to a weaker economy overall. There's a few at the top that really benefit, yet the vast majority do not. There's a lot to like about the future of our economy, and there's also a lot to be concerned about, and that's one of those things. This increases uncertainty, volatility. I'll talk about the effects of this, like I said in the last segment. But if you want to protect yourself from that uncertainty and volatility, protect the downside, have unlimited upside in the good years, yet not lose in the bad, reduce your taxes, increase your liquidity, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com for more information. Or email me at Ferenc, F-E-R-E-N-C, no E on the end, F-E-R-E-N-C @yourpersonalbank.com. Stay tuned in the next segment. We're going to touch on some financial literacy ideas, how you can thrive in volatile and uncertain markets. This is Ference, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. My show focuses on creating tax-free buckets of money, insured, guaranteed, highly liquid, and the ability to create positive arbitrage. Did you know this is the best time in over 40 years to invest in index annuities? An index annuity allows you to 1. Grow your money safely without market risk. Once gains are locked in, they're guaranteed against future market loss. 2. Double-digit potential upside on good market years with no losses in bad years. Principal is guaranteed. 3. A 7 to 8% fixed interest option is available in the first year. If you're interested in growing your money with potential index-related gains without downside market risk, this is the best time in over 40 years to consider an annuity. If your annuity is over 2 years old, the newer products likely have far superior potential returns. Please contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or 866-268-4422 for more info. That's yourpersonalbank.com.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth. Want more information? Contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Now back to the show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ference. If you want to reach me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com. Yes, you will reach me, or you can email me at Ference, F-E-R-E-N-C, no E on the end, F-E-R-E-N-C, at yourpersonalbank.com. Yes, you'll reach me. I had a couple really interesting meetings this past week, and two very, very different scenarios. But the first one I want to discuss was with an older gentleman. He was 66, retired, and some thoughts that he shared with me lead right into one of the most common financial literacy mistakes that people make. And why I say this and why I know this is I did teach a college-certified financial literacy course for a couple of years. I was chairman of the board of an FDIC-insured bank for a while. I've been in the financial industry, owned an agency, working with clients for over 26 years. Got a pretty good background in the financial world. I've seen just about everything. And what caused this to come up and what led to this common financial literacy mistake was he had an index annuity product that has not been performing very well. In fact, it's only been averaging about 3% per year, which is very poor. I share this all the time. If you have an index annuity product or an IUL, Index Universal Life product, and it's been averaging less than 7% over the last couple of years, you have a sub-performing product. We have many of them that have been paying 10, 11, even 12% average annual return for the past decade plus. This is net of all fees, costs, whatever. This is what's credited in your account. That's what matters, right? Good dividing line, in my opinion, is less than 7%. You should be talking to me, show you better products. Over 7%, yeah, maybe you want to keep it. I find 90 to 95% of the time when I meet with folks, when listeners contact me, they're not getting anywhere near 7% on average, maybe 1 or 2 years. If you look back over 3, 5, 10 years, they're not receiving anywhere close to that. That was the situation with this gentleman. He talked to his existing financial person who had recommended this particular product. And she told him, well, you're 2 years away from it maturing. Then you'll have access to all the money. You might as well stay the course, and then they'll be all liquid after that point. There was about $250,000 in this particular account. And I asked him one simple question. Are you going to need $250,000 in a couple of years? He said, oh, no, nowhere close to that. He pointed out he could use a portion of it, maybe $50,000 to do some remodeling in the house, various things like that. But the rest of it, again, I asked what was his goal? What was his purpose for the money? And this is the big difference. See, many people make the mistake of focusing on the product first. That's a financial literacy mistake. The better way to go about it is first ask yourself a simple question. What is your goal on this money? If you could wave a magic wand, what would you see this bucket of money or this chunk of money do for you? Do you need it for liquidity to remodel a house, is his point? Do you want it to grow for the rainy day? Do you want it to supplement retirement at now or some point in the future? There could be a myriad of purposes that you have for that money or you would like to see it do for you. But identifying your goal, what you would like to see it do for you, is first and foremost, should be the first priority. And then you bring in the product that best fits your goal, not the other way around. People look at this product or that product. No, you look at your goal. What do you want this to do for you? Now, certainly goals focus for what that money could change over time. What is your most important purpose for that money? And oftentimes, your purpose could be multifaceted. This leads to a second financial literacy concept or mistake that's often made, and that is thinking in terms of all or nothing. He had $250,000 in this account. He pointed out, well, in a couple of years, when it's mature and there's no early surrender penalty, I would like to take maybe $50,000 or so, remodel the house and such. And then I asked, what would you like to see the rest of the money do? Well, supplementing retirement sounded like a really good idea for him. He didn't need the income right away, but at some point, a few years from now, he'd like to be able to access funds from it, again, to supplement his retirement. So I responded, really, you have two goals for this money. You have a portion that you want liquid in a couple years. The remainder of the funds you'd like to see supplement your retirement. And he said, absolutely. Again, instead of thinking in terms of all or nothing, having to keep it all in one account, you should actually have it in two accounts, two separate accounts with two different purposes. My recommendation to him was keep the $50,000 or so that he wanted available in a couple of years to remodel his home in the low-performing account that he currently had. Granted, he was not going to see a large return on it, but at least it would be liquid for him at a point where he wanted to or needed to use the money for remodeling. Then I recommended the remaining portion, frankly, should be applied to something that could grow for him. Maximize returns, maximize income. He wanted to see safety, some guarantees. Obviously, index products provided that. Therefore, he would be able to maximize the amount of money that he would have available to supplement retirement. As I asked him some more questions about what his purpose, what his goal, again, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you like that bucket of money to do for you? And once you identify that, again, you can find the right financial tool that fits that job the best. Many people I run into, particularly after listening to this show, like the idea of maximizing returns while protecting the downside, limiting the losses, protecting the principal. Also, many want to maximize income to supplement retirement. That was this gentleman's case. So I pointed out we had an index product. He could do what's called a partial rollover or a partial 1035 exchange from his existing product. You don't have to have it, leave it in one place. You can split it. Most financial people don't want you to know that. It's a non-taxable event. And in his case, a very small penalty. He only had 2 years left in his particular index annuity product, about a 2% penalty. I showed him where we could get him a 20% bonus up front. Obviously, he would be way ahead day one. For example, if he transferred or rolled over that $200,000, he'd have a $36,000 signing bonus, and his penalty would have been about $4,000, therefore being up about $32,000 essentially day one. And then his money could grow from there. I showed him indexes that had averaged in the range of about 9 to 10% average annual return over the past decade plus, with a 20% signing bonus up front. And that's his net money credited into his account. It's not what you make, it's what you keep. That's what counts, right? He found this very interesting and, frankly, as he pointed out, not something that anyone had ever brought up to him ever before. He wasn't a young gentleman. He'd been investing for many decades, yet no one had ever discussed the idea of him dividing his account into more than one with more than one purpose. One being, hey, having liquidity in a couple years while the remainder grew with safety and have access to the money to supplement retirement. Well, we look at creating retirement income. That's often how we do this. We look at different buckets of money and allocate for different purposes. When we're looking at reducing future tax liability, we'll create a tax-free bucket of money, for example. maybe you have one bucket that's taxable and another that's tax-free. What does that do? It creates options for you rather than, say, having all of your money subject to taxes when you withdraw. This is often the case when people have IRAs, 401ks, qualified plans like that. When they put all their money in that one bucket, what I see quite often, almost exclusively, folks that have a sizable IRA or 401k, once they retire and start withdrawing monies from it, now they're looking for ways to reduce their taxes because oftentimes they're getting slaughtered with high taxes now. And the response I hear quite frequently is, if I had known how this actually worked, I would never have done it this way. It's harder to fix the problem after you've created this ticking tax time bomb, as we call it in the industry, where everything's deferred while you're working. And then later you build up this big nest egg, for example, and now you're taking it out because either you need the income for retirement or eventually required minimum distributions kick in at age 72 and you have to start taking it out. Regardless, you're going to pay taxes on all of that money that you deferred. And the argument oftentimes is, well, your tax bracket will be lower in retirement than it is when you were working. Did you know that multiple studies have shown that approximately 80 to 85% of American retirees are in the same tax bracket in retirement than they were while they were working? Why? Oftentimes their qualified accounts have grown to the point that they have to take a chunk out, which is, of course, taxable. Social Security, most of the time, is taxable, or a majority of it. Maybe they have a pension or other income sources, rental income, whatever it may be, which keeps them in a similar tax bracket than when they were working. So that whole idea of deferring taxes because your tax bracket will be lower in the future for the majority of people just doesn't work. That's statistical fact. I know the IRS, the financial industry doesn't want people to know that, but that's the statistical fact. And then the other point I like to make with that is, can you tell me what the tax brackets are going to be 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? Of course not. It's impossible to predict. Congress can change the tax rates anytime they want. The IRS adjusts them on an annual basis. There's something called bracket creep, where income gets into a different bracket, it ends up costing you more. And then the other issue I run into is, if you don't have an option of a tax-free bucket of money, and your personal bank creates that, by the way, highly liquid with guarantees, IULs can do the same thing, unlimited upside. We've got IULs with 10% plus average returns for a decade or two plus with no downside risk and access to the money at very low rates, 5% guaranteed. If your IUL is growing at 10%, for example, and it costs you 5 to borrow against it, you get to keep the difference. That's called positive arbitrage. You're still making money on the money while accessing it all tax-free. It's a different product than indexed annuities. It's an IUL, Index Universal Life. This is a tool that's often used by the wealthy to reduce their taxes. And they're doing it legally by using the code, understanding the rules, and applying it accordingly. When you don't have an option and all your assets are basically tied up in one bucket, let's say in a qualified plan, and it's all subject to tax, when you need to take a chunk out for some reason, you get creamed on taxes. I hear that story all the time. I took a chunk out and oh my gosh, my tax bill is huge. I'm like, yeah, you don't have any other option of accessing funds to mitigate that to some degree. If half your money was in a tax-free bucket and half in a taxable bucket, well, you could take a certain amount from the taxable bucket, the qualified plan, up to a certain point to keep you under a certain tax bracket, and then pull the rest from the tax-free bucket. It gives you options. It allows you to mitigate your future tax liability. And I guess that's what I'm going to touch on in the next segment, which is another financial literacy concept that's often abused. Most people focus strictly on growth, rate of return, but they don't think about, what about distribution? What happens when I take the money out? Stay tuned in the next segment. We'll touch on more of that. This is Ference, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. Your Personal Bank is a financial concept that allows you to grow your money insured with guarantees, income tax-free, and highly liquid. Also, you have the potential to continue to earn interest on money you invest in other assets, purchase items, or pay expenses. How can you do this? First, invest in a high cash value policy to earn dividends. If you leave money in the policy, it'll grow like any investment, insured with guarantees and tax-free. Second, we establish a bank line of credit using the cash in the policy as collateral. When you access funds, you receive them from the bank. Typically, dividends earned are higher than the interest charged by the bank. You keep the difference. This is known as positive arbitrage. If you want to earn interest on money you spent or invest elsewhere, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or 866-268-4422 for more info. That's yourpersonalbank.com.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth. Want more information? Contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Now back to the show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ference. If you want to reach me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com. Yes, you will reach me. Or you can email me at FERENC, no E on the end, FERENC at yourpersonalbank.com. Yes, you will reach me. So another interesting meeting I had this past week was with the opposite end of the spectrum, and it was a young couple. They were in their 20s. And interestingly, they had run into the insurance banking concept about 4 or 5 years prior, had gotten started early, which is a tremendous thing to do. If you're younger or you know, kids, grandkids, situation like that, compound interest, it's often referred to as the eighth wonder of the world. It's powerful. The problem is you have to have the right tool to obtain that benefit, to maximize the cash values, to grow the money, highly liquid, with guarantees, tax-free, all that. And the analogy that I used, and I shared that with this couple, is you think of a teeter-totter. And again, this is one of the mistakes I see with personal bank policies constantly. Probably the number one problem or situation, or what causes it to not be nearly as effective as it could be. Think of a teeter-totter. You put cash value on one side and put death benefit on the other. 98 to 99% of insurance policies are structured where you have a really high death benefit and the cash values are low, minimal, or even none. Take a term policy, for example, they have no cash value. It's strictly all about death benefit. Now, if you're looking for death benefit protection, fine. I have some of that myself because I have a family, a business, and I'm the primary breadwinner. And if something happened to me, I wanted to make sure and take care of my loved ones. And unfortunately, what most people, when you say the word insurance, that's all they think about. If you research online, you'll even see comments of don't invest in insurance because it's a bad investment. Well, if it's structured with a lot of death benefit and little or no cash or minimal cash, they are correct. It's not an investment. It's a death benefit protection plan. That's what I call it. So this young couple, to give you an idea, were investing roughly about $8,000 a year. Not a tremendous amount of money, but enough to, if it was structured correctly, to make a big difference down the road. Because again, they were in their 20s. Yet their death benefits were like $1.2 million, $1.5 million. Huge numbers. So it's not about the actual numbers, it's about the ratio. Again, think of the teeter-totter. Put the cash on one side, death benefit on the other. If the cash is low or minimal and the death benefit is huge, how much of the contributions, the premiums that they add to this, do you think are going to cash growth versus death benefit? Obviously, with a large death benefit, even if you're young, a lot of that money was going to the death benefit, which meant it was really more of a death benefit protection tool, not a cash tool. I was able to show them where we were able to reduce their contributions and cut their death benefits by almost tenfold. Huge, massive difference. Because in their case, death benefit was not what they were looking for. There's some term policies, some cheap, inexpensive term policies that we can bring to the table for them because they have a new child. For this bucket of money, that was not their goal. Their goal was to grow cash with guarantees, tax-free, highly liquid, maximize growth. Comes back to what I was sharing in the last segment. When you look at a product, first financial literacy concept I shared that's often abused, and this comes from my college certified financial literacy course, is you don't look at the product first, you look at the goal, the purpose of the money. that takes away the bias. See, a lot of people get hung up with the name of this product. Oh, I love this or I hate that. You could say that about pretty much any asset. I can find you people that love stocks and hate them, love bonds and hate them, love crypto and hate it, love precious metals and hate it, love annuities and hate them, love insurance and hate it, love real estate, others hate it. So you got people that love it and will say, hey, this is great, and this is the best thing since sliced bread. It's the cat's meow, all this. You should get into this. It's awesome. I'll find you another person that'll do nothing but badmouth it and hate it, tell you all the negatives. So it's not the asset or the tool that's the problem. It's one of my pet peeves I share all the time is with agents and advisors. Here, let me give you another little nugget of wisdom about the industry. If you're listening to any financial person, I don't care who they are, and they tell you about they love this and hate that, they're not giving you financial advice. What they're giving you, what they're sharing with you is their personal bias. That's it. The reality is there's no such thing as a perfect financial tool. Every financial tool is designed for specific purposes, and it will shine at one thing and not do so well at another. If you were going to go to the racetrack and you showed up in a fast sports car, muscle car, something that really could go, or you showed up with a tractor, which one's likely going to win that race? Well, it's obvious. The sports car is going to win the race. It's much, much faster than a tractor is. But what if you want to plow a field? The sports car is going to be useless. It's not the sports car's fault or the tractor. It's not the tool that's the problem. It's the wrong fit. So my point is, when I was sharing with this young couple, is the amount of money they were contributing in contributions, premiums, compared to the level of death benefit insurance they had was way, way out of whack. They had way too much death benefit for the amount of money they were contributing. And again, we were able to bring it down like 8-10-fold. By bringing the death benefit way down, we did a couple of things. One, we dramatically reduced the cost of insurance, like by 8 or 10-fold. Massive reduction. That also reduces the fees, which then allows the cash that they are contributing to be maximized. Now they can earn dividends. Or if it's an IUL, they can maximize returns. Index universal life products, I can show you that have averaged 10, 15, 20 years, 9, 10% plus returns on average per year, not just 1 year, average return over a decade plus. In your pocket, net of all cost, fees, actual credits to your account. And it's tax-free. There's guarantees, protects the downside. If you go with dividend products, they have guarantees in terms of gains each and every year. You can access against it. Tax-free standpoint, the cost of borrowing against these policies, typically less than what you earn. I'll use an example with an IUL. If you're earning 10% and it costs you 5 to borrow, what's your money doing? Well, you're still making money. You're keeping the difference. That's called positive arbitrage. And you can do that all on a tax-free basis. And when you do that over a period of time, the positive arbitrage and that type of tool for a younger person, and what I mean by a younger person, anyone say under the age of, 65 in our industry, it's powerful. Some people think if you're 65-year-old, well, here's the reality. Here's another financial literacy concept that many people miss. They underestimate how long they're going to live, very commonly. Statistically speaking, if you're an adult male, your average life expectancy right now is 82. And if you're female, it's 84. If you're in your mid-60s even, you still got about 20 years. A lot can happen in 20 years. You can really grow your money with guarantees, tax-free, highly liquid, and supplement retirement and do all those things, even if you're in your mid-60s. But certainly, compound interest benefits somebody younger. We all know that. Well, the cool part I was able to do with this younger couple is by bringing the death benefit way down, again, thinking of that teeter-totter, that brought the cash way up. The amount of growth that they're going to have on these accounts are stupendous. If they follow through with just literally a few $100s a month contributions, they will be millionaires, tax-free, guaranteed, somewhere in their 50s or so. That's assuming current interest rates, current dividend rates, which are on the low side historically. There's a lot of reasons behind this, but long-term bond yields are expected to stay high because of the government debt, which means dividend rates will likely increase over time to the more average of around 7%. Right now, they're 6.5. If that indeed does happen, they're looking at tremendous returns over the next several decades with guarantees, tax-free, all of it. And let me share one last little thought. A listener and prospective client I was talking to this past week or so, but he was retired, he was investing, and as he put it to me, he was getting tired of it because he was wanting to enjoy his retirement. I asked him a couple simple questions. Why was he investing? He really didn't have a good answer. He even shared, well, I feel like it's what I should do, but the problem is if I invest, I can make some money, but I also can lose. He mentioned making and losing 5, 10 grand in a day even at times. But he said what's worse is if I do invest, then I'm always thinking about and worrying about, whether it's going to go down or not. Or even if I don't invest, then I'm always thinking, should I invest it in this position or not? He had gone all to cash because he was fed up with it. I asked him a second simple question. This is kind of what I do with clients, kind of help them clarify what is important for them. There's no right or wrong answer here. What I'm trying to get is to clarify your thinking, your goals, your purpose. What is it you want? And my job is to try to help you get there. So my second question was, well, if you made 5 grand in a day, as you pointed out, will that change your life any? He had a good, solid retirement. He was good. And he said, no, not really. And I said, if you lose 5 grand in a day, does that bother you? He says, oh yeah, absolutely, because that's why he had gone to cash. And I just stated, why are you torturing yourself? You don't seem to enjoy it. You want to enjoy your retirement. And even if you do well and make a bunch of money, it really is not going to change your life. Why not put it into something that's safe with guarantees? Downside principles protected. If the markets go the wrong way, they go down. If it goes up, great, you make a return. Money will be there. Could supplement retirement down the road, an inflation hedge, offset that, whatever. He really liked that idea. And many of my clients do. You don't have to do what everybody else does. What you should do is do what's important to you. What do you want your life to look like? How do you want to lead your life? Do you want it watching the markets every day? Do you enjoy that? If you do, great. I have no problem with that. I would suggest diversifying, at least put a portion of the portfolio protected from the downside, get strong returns in good years with no downside risk. By the way, that's one of my crusades with this show is to dispel the myth out there that if you want guarantees, you have to give up strong growth. That is not true. Index products have a reputation of not getting strong returns, but the reason isn't because of the guarantees. It's because of the poor indexes that agents and advisors often recommend because they don't have the index performance reports. They don't really know what these indexes have done. I have all that information. If you contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or email me at Ferenc, F-E-R-E-N-C, no E on the end, F-E-R-E-N-C at yourpersonalbank.com. If you have an existing index product, I can show you what your returns have been and what they're likely to be in the future based on these index performance reports. I can show you the 1, 5, 10-year results. And I can show you ones that have averaged probably far superior to what you've been getting. So you can increase the returns, but eliminate the downside. Enjoy your life. Don't worry about it. That's what I love with what I do. I never have somebody call me or contact me and say, hey, why'd my account value go down last year or last month or last week? Because everything's guaranteed. There's no downside risk. And there's something to be said about peace of mind. Stay tuned in the last segment. I got a few other thoughts in the bigger picture of this issue that we have, particularly on the legal immigration fraud. So don't miss it. This is Ferenc, host of Your Personal Bank Show. My show focuses on creating tax-free buckets of money, insured, guaranteed, highly liquid, and the ability to create positive arbitrage. Did you know this is the best time in over 40 years to invest in index annuities? An index annuity allows you to 1, grow your money safely without market risk. Once gains are locked in, they're guaranteed against future market loss. 2, double-digit potential upside on good market years with no losses in bad years. Principal is guaranteed. 3, a 7 to 8% fixed interest option is available in the first year. If you're interested in growing your money with potential index-related gains without downside market risk, this is the best time in over 40 years to consider an annuity. If your annuity is over 2 years old, the newer products likely have far superior potential returns. Please contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or 866-268-4422 for more info. That's yourpersonalbank.com.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth. Want more information? Contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Now back to the show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ference. If you want to reach me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com or you can email me at Ference, F-E-R-E-N-C, no E on the end, F-E-R-E-N-C at yourpersonalbank.com. Yes, you'll reach me. So in the first segment of the show, I was discussing some of the issues, vast amount of information that companies have. It's called salary optimization. This is what you're up against. They know way more about you and your financial situation than you probably realize unless you've frozen that information down. So oftentimes, if you're negotiating for a salary or a raise, they already know what they're going to offer. They already know what you'll probably accept before you do even. It's not about the position. It's not about your experience. It's about your desperation. They'll offer you a little bit more than what they think will keep you from walking. And that's what you're up against because of all this data. And the same type of thing as we're seeing with college degrees, and it impacts those. So if you or you have a child or grandchild considering a college degree or in the midst of that, boy, you better be careful and really be cognizant of what the costs are and what the real likely salary is going to be for that position. Before you commit to that time and maybe debt, student debt or whatever, many positions, many degrees today are a losing proposition from a financial standpoint. Companies laying off people and such, they're trying to blame it on AI. And the reality is AI has not made that much of a dent yet in the employment market. Now, it may in the future, but it certainly hasn't yet. The real dent in employment has come from foreign, cheaper labor, particularly since 2019. Foreign labor has been on the rise dramatically. Native-born labor has flatlined. March of 2026 jobs report pointed out that foreign-born labor is up over 800,000, while native-born is down about 200,000. It's a million job swing in the favor of foreign-born labor. Cognizant, which is the largest H-1B employer in America, just had its president and general counsel federally indicted for bribery. They paid H-1B workers $48,000 less per year than American workers. This is not a visa program. It's a wage suppression machine, and they proved it in court. Infosys paid a $34 million visa fraud fine recently. Another company called Tata is under a $100 million federal probe. And after all of these cases and indictments, you know what the U.S. Chamber of Commerce did? They sued to protect the H-1B visa program. Is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce working for American business, or are they representing foreign corporations? According to the U.S. government, we now have over 53 million foreign-born people living in the United States. This is about 16% of our population, or would be equal to 10 times the population of the state of Missouri. We have the equivalent population of 10 Missouris in the United States that are foreign-born. And another way to look at this is if we go back to the Ellis Island era, which was approximately 1870 through 1920. At the peak, we had under 15% of the total population of the United States foreign-born. That was the highest it had ever been as a share of the U.S. population. Today, we're over that. Even percentage-wise, we're at the highest level of foreign-born people in the United States in the history of the country. And this is not even talking about illegal aliens. We're just discussing, for the most part, the ones we know about. This puts our country in uncharted territory. It creates all types of problems. Wage suppression, schools overcrowded, housing prices hitting record levels, hospital congestion, I was discussing with a new client recently, and she was sharing how the country that she grew up in, she doesn't recognize today, and everything just feels kind of off. And I pointed out to her that when you have a situation where a significant portion of the population are not from here, and unfortunately, many or even the majority of the foreign-born population are not like the Ellis Island era. Those people did not get any kind of welfare or benefits. They didn't exist. They came here for a dream, the American dream. They wanted a better life, and the current foreign-born population does too. But the difference is they were willing to work for it. They wanted to come to America, most cases, to become Americans. They had to go through an interview process. They had to be sponsored. They had to prove they would have the ability to support themselves. About a third of the ones that came over in the boats to Ellis Island and other places like that were turned back. There was a process, and it was a dream, and they eventually integrated into our culture, and most of them wanted to. That's not so true today. That's far more rare. And that's why things feel different or off. We have people here from other parts of the world who do not want to integrate into our society, do not want to become part of America. And yes, our culture. Yes, we do have a culture, and one we should be proud of. Most of you are old enough to remember Captain America, hot dogs, apple pie, that type of thing. That's the American culture. There are other parts. And it's not extreme for a nation to want safe streets, low crime, the rule of law. It's not extreme for a nation to want limits. It's not extreme for us to want our representatives to represent us, the citizens, instead of preference of donors, activists, multinational. America has every right to have an immigration system that works for us. It's oriented towards its own people, the citizens. And obviously, illegal entry has stopped, thankfully. But the people that came here illegally need to go. They broke the law. It's plain and simple, not complicated. Also, majority of them are a drain on the system. In fact, do you know studies have been done that about 10% of legal immigrants, the ones that do it right, are public gain, 90% are public drain. You take the food stamp program alone. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, about half of the people on food stamps are illegal aliens. That shouldn't even be allowed. It's against the law. The laws are on the books. That's what's so frustrating. They just need to be enforced. They're not being enforced. We have leaders, politicians, bureaucrats who've just decided to ignore the laws that are actually on the books. Another third, approximately, are legal immigrants, which also there are laws on the books. They're not allowed and not supposed to be receiving welfare, government assistance, etc. Only about 15% of those on food stamps are actually U.S. citizens. And there's all kinds of fraud and birthright citizenship gone to the Supreme Court, and they're arguing that whole thing. I hope and pray that our Supreme Court comes to a common sense solution. Why I keep bringing up the whole immigration matter, keep beating the drum, is this is an existential threat to our country, to our society, to our way of life. And we've come to a point that if we don't turn this around, I'm afraid the country that many of us knew and grew up with will disappear forever. I don't want to see that for my kids or grandkids. I hope you don't either. Much of this immigration involves fraud, both legal and otherwise. Tremendous levels of expense, taxpayer money going out. Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan, stated recently regarding immigration policy. He cited stagnant wages, declining outcomes for lower income Americans. And I quote, "Immigration, what the hell are we doing? Americans should be getting sick of it." He's right. It would solve so many of our problems as a country if we would just have an immigration moratorium. Give us a break. Enough already. We have too many people here, and get the ones out that don't belong. And if you've got temporary status, temporary needs to mean what it is, temporary. People here temporary for decades is crazy. The average HB1 is supposed to be 3 years, but it gets renewed and renewed and renewed, and many of them then get a green card. Let me share one more thing with you. This happened with Oracle. They recently fired 30,000 U.S. employees and then turned around and applied for over 3,000 H-1B visas. By the way, many of those employees that they fired were former H-1Bs that then received their green cards And because their work visa was not tied to their ability to stay in the country anymore, they got fired because now they could demand more salary. As many of the studies show, the companies are able to pay a lower wage, cheaper labor. And the difference is not minimal. The difference in Oracle's case averaged something like $20,000, $30,000 per employee in savings, times 30,000. That's millions and millions of dollars. Their stock went up 4% that day because the company became immediately more profitable because their cost of labor went down. But the bigger question is, was it the right thing to do? Is the American idea worth saving? Is this American experiment that we're coming up on the 250th year of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, is it worth continuing? Is it worth fighting for this? My answer is I'm not ready to give up on it yet, and there's many others that feel the same. That's where I draw my hope. I'm not ready to throw in the towel, and I hope you are not either. The solution for those that get frustrated is really quite simple, and Thomas Jefferson stated it. Democracy is designed for an educated electorate, and the only way to preserve liberty is to educate the masses. It starts with education. It starts with people knowing what's going on and voting for what's good for them, their country, not to the detriment of our society. When the chips are down, that's when America is at its best. We're not good at preventing crises, but man, when one happens, we are great at responding. Look at our history. So what do I think is going to happen in the short term? A lot of uncertainty, a lot of volatility. Protect yourself, protect the downside, maximize unlimited upside gains. We have products, index products that have averaged 10, 11, even 12% annual average returns over the past decade plus. I have folks that made 23% or more just last year. Locked in. Markets go down, they keep it. Reduce taxes, increase liquidity. All of those things I can help you do. So if things go good, great. You'll make money. But if they go the other way, which I think we're going to have some volatility for a while at least, you're protected. Contact me at yourpersonalbank.com for more information. Email me at Ferenc, F-E-R-E-N-C, no E on the end, F-E-R-E-N-C at yourpersonalbank.com. Yes, you'll reach me. Stay tuned next week to the Your Personal Bank Show for more great information. And as long as it's on our money, in God we trust. Concerned about market risk? I'm Ferenc Toth, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. The S&P 500 valuations are higher than at any time ever recorded in stock market history. This includes 1929 and 1999. We all know what happened afterwards. It wasn't pretty. Elevated valuations increase risk to the downside. Annuities and Your Personal Bank offer unlimited upside with no downside market risk. Your principal is guaranteed. Contact Ferenc at yourpersonalbank.com to maximize returns, reduce market risk, increase liquidity, and reduce taxes.
Contact Ferenc at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guests of this program do not engage in legal, accounting, or tax advice. Professional advice regarding your situation should be sought if required. Some products discussed may have limitations and not be available in all states. Excessive unpaid loans may affect performance. Distributions may become taxable if not managed properly.
I'm Ferenc Toth, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. This is the golden era of fixed assets. Annuities and guaranteed lifetime income are paying the best rates in over 40 years. If you looked at annuities over 2 years ago, the numbers have increased significantly. If you own an annuity over 2 years old, the new products can not only pay your penalty to switch, but are often guaranteed to outperform your current product. For more info, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or 866-268-4422. That's yourpersonalbank.com.